Hola, boa noite. Cole Munson here with the Happy Homesteaders Hour. Of course, joined every Tuesday evening here on the Portugal show for the Happy Homesteaders Hour by the grandmother of this community, our expat elder, Dona Jacqueline. She's here live from Caldas da Rainha in Portugal. And we've just discovered tonight, haven't we, Jacqueline, that we can switch our screens around like that. I've been using this tech for ages, didn't know I could do that. That's better, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. And I think it's fun that you found today. I mean, you're supposed to know everything about this. So
I've been using this for hours and hours, days and days, weeks and months now. And then I just thought, shall I just see if I can swap the screens around? Did that. And there you go. We've got you on the left-hand side of the screen there, which is perfect for how you appear to us here on the Portugal show. And our Tuesday evenings from 10 Lisbon time, where we try and bring a bit of Portuguese positive news, a slightly different angle on things, and of course your calming presence that people have commented upon in the past as a balm in these troubled times.
a
balm.
I like that word. Sounds really soothing.
Yes, yeah. And tonight I was thinking, what should we do? And of course, sorry, I haven't asked you how you are this week. We'll come back to that as the first thing after I've just given a little bit of a preface to tonight's show. But you sent me loads of lovely things. And it just prompted me to think, or to suggest tonight that we talk about preservation, dehydration, jams, all manner of things that help us make the most of our food. And stock up our pantries as like full-on, sub-paying homesteaders, because that's what it's all about. I think. Oh, and that's not what it's all about, but that's part of the whole picture of being a homesteader. I think is to make sure you've got a well-stocked pantry, and you can see yourself through the winter, as well as have lots of lovely treats and a whole cornucopia of various things to draw upon from the wonderful bounty that we find outside. Fresh in nature here in Portugal. So thank you. May I say, first of all, thank you for your lovely bottle of ginger, Obidos, that you sent me, which I will be sipping on tonight. There it is. Cherries in the bottom there. It's a cherry liqueur, everybody, in case you didn't know. I've been in Portugal for 3 years and hadn't tried it until last night. I knew of it, but I hadn't tried it. So thank you, Jacqueline, for that. And then all these lovely things, which we'll go through one by one. You've got basil, sage, olive leaves, tangerines from your trees. All of these things you've dehydrated yourself. Just one of the many skills of the homesteader. So we'll go through those, find out how you did that. And I urge other people to join us tonight with their, however modest your preservation techniques are, or your homesteading techniques and tips are. Do share them with us tonight, because I think that's the way to learn about these things. And definitely important not to be too modest or too embarrassed about your efforts if you feel they're a little bit sort of at beginner level, because we've got to start somewhere, and a lot of us are starting this journey, I think, around about now. So I think we need each other, and we need each other's information. We got a boa noite from Joel in Porto. Good evening to you, Safira. Maria said she would set an alarm for this. Well done, Maria. I'm sure you've been preserving, canning, jamming, and all that sort of thing in the Bob Marley sense, as well as the conserve sense as well. So do let us know what you've been up to, Maria. And of course, Eric is here tonight. Hola, boa noite a todos. Thanks for an informative interview with Rachel and Frank last night. Wish I could have seen it live on YouTube. Yes, you heard what happened, right, Eric? I sent the show out on my wife's astrology channel instead. So she would have seen that coming, of course, as an astrologer, tee-hee. But I didn't realize I was doing that, and I couldn't understand why nobody was responding. And then I saw my wife's little picture in the icon of YouTube and realized my mistake. So it's up there now. It's not. It will never be live on YouTube, but it is there, preserved, like the things we're talking about tonight, on YouTube forever. That's probably what I'm best at preserving, is old interviews online. But anyway, Jacqueline, how are you? How's your week been since we last spoke?
My week's been very, very busy. Very busy.
Uh-huh.
There's been a lot of coming and going in my household, which has been interesting and nice. And changes are always a little bit chaotic, but when they settle down, life is always that little bit better. So it's good. But just before you go on to the next subject, looking at that that bottle again, I realised that obviously alcohol preserves cherries very well.
Too well, you might say. Look at that. Yeah. I don't know if you. Yes, you can see them. There they are. They look like they could be olives, don't they? But they're actually cherries in there, which I suspect is part of the extended pleasure of this particular drink. Is that when you finished, you get the cherries out and you chew on the cherries.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, superb.
That one comes from Obidos.
Yeah, and that what a lovely place to visit. What an incredible town.
And they serve it to you in chocolate cups if you're very lucky.
Yeah, which is a little bit better than I've got here tonight. I've got a reused chocolate mousse jar, which is very popular with the children here. But this is what I'm sipping from tonight. So let me just take a quick taste. That's so warming, and I'm getting definitely, obviously, the top notes of cherry. A sugary syrupiness of a liqueur, and I can imagine what that's like when you actually eat the chocolate cup that you get it in, and it will just taste like a chocolate liqueur. Yeah, making my mouth water just the thought of that.
But you could maybe make some chocolate cups or something.
What a great idea. The problem with chocolate that we buy for cooking in this house is it doesn't often make it to the cooking stage, but I'll see what I can do. We have Maria. I ended up buying a food dehydrator, and it was a good investment. My orange slices came out perfectly. Do tell us how you did that, Maria. I think we're comparing notes with Dona Jacqueline's approach here as well. And Eric did hear about my mistakes last night. And Benoit from Povoa de Vagim. Mark, you seem like the sort of chap to me, like a good prepared sort of guy. Are you a food preserver as well? Have you got a well-stocked larder, or is that your intention sometime in the future? Beekeeping, something like that? Whatever you've got, everybody. I know that there are over 400 people now on the Happy Homesteaders group, and really there's not much sharing going on. And I created it to share know-how and tips and techniques because actually let's maybe share what we were talking about before, Jacqueline. I came to Portugal thinking that life might be quite different in the world. I had a feeling, and this was 10 years ago, that society might change quite drastically. And actually, if you're tuned in tonight to the Portugal show, and you're expecting to hear about life in cosmopolitan Lisbon or down in the Algarve with speedboats and golf and the high life, this is the Happy Homesteader vibe is slightly different to that. That lifestyle is available in Portugal, absolutely. But tonight we're going a little bit off grid. That's what the Happy Homesteading is all about. A little bit more self-sufficient, a little bit more interdependent, perhaps a little bit more local and community-based. So that's the context and the vibe of the show tonight. And that's what I thought I was going to do when I first thought about coming to Portugal over 10 years ago. And obviously, as these things usually work out, it didn't turn out quite as I planned. Like most people's plans don't always turn out as they have them in their mind. But we're getting there. We are getting there. And we were talking earlier, weren't we, Jacqueline, about how things may well still change in the world quite drastically. And I think we've been provided with that this year for sure, haven't we? Maybe not quite in the way we expected.
Well, I also think probably even if there's not a big change suddenly now, so many people have been put out of work and so on and so forth that probably food is varyingly expensive throughout the world and getting more expensive. So I've been told in England, my family tell me, in England it's getting very much more expensive. So it would probably be good to, apart from all the wonderful health reasons, but it probably would be helpful to be able to grow things.
Yes.
And to do things and experiment with what you can grow indoors as well.
Funny you should say that. I just recorded a video tonight of Mrs. M's new system for growing food indoors in the wintertime. Not far from me here right now, and I will put this up on YouTube at some point, is a growing system, an indoor growing system that has tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, kale, all kinds of salad, cress, obviously, because that's pretty easy to grow. Even some physalis, the Chinese gooseberry. It's a kind of hybrid between hydroponics and bioponics, I think she said. But I'll put that video up soon. we are, as well as growing food outdoors and the chickens and all the fruit trees in the place where we live. Yeah, we're looking at this indoor growing system, and I think you're absolutely right. Whether you are, as some people are, in that area of this sort of apocalyptic prepper, fearing the absolute worst, or you're just seeing how society and the economy might be going, it makes utter sense, doesn't it? As you say, to think about growing some of your own food. You've got resources to share with people and all the health benefits as well.
Well, I think particularly the health benefits, because since sort of supermarket takeovers and things, it's very difficult to get really healthy food.
Yeah.
I mean, that is really, really important. It's for us.
Us human beings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure the sort of upsurge in cancer and things like that is food related. In as much as everybody apparently has cancer in their body, but it can just run riot if nutrition goes downhill and preservatives go uphill.
Indeed. Well, this is the problem, isn't it? The easiest food for supermarkets is processed stuff, isn't it? And all the stuff they can add value to, rather than the raw and delicious and nutritious stuff that comes straight from the garden.
I actually have got a bit of a funny story about that. I was staying in America once, and the lady asked me if I'd like what they call homemade biscuits for breakfast, which is they're virtually scones. And I thought, oh, well, that would be really nice, because we seem to have been living on things that came out of the packet and went into the oven. And so she actually got out a packet of mix, and that was the extent of the homemade, was to mix this packet mix.
Incredible. And she actually described them as homemade?
Yeah.
As in home mixed in that example. Yeah, it's interesting. So interesting.
Water or whatever. Anyway.
Incredible. Yeah, but that is a funny habit. Come on, we've got a few North Americans here tonight. Biscuits. Come on, a biscuit is like a Jaffa cake or a rich tea, isn't it? Or a digestive. Not a scone. But let us know what you think, Americans who are tuned in tonight with your funny biscuit habit. And Maria is saying, yeah, I have tons of oranges, so I'm using dried orange slices for potpourri blends. Oh, that's a nice idea. Christmas garlands, cocktail garnishes, etc. And this is a bit of an expat thing, isn't it, Maria? When you see the amount of oranges that go wasted, it's like, I couldn't believe it. I just wanted to rescue every orange I saw in the first year that I was here. But then you get a little bit more blasé about it, and you realize that citrus falls from the trees here like, back home acorns or conkers might fall from the trees in England, and it just goes down and it composts. But it's quite something, isn't it, when you're not used to it, to see what you think is waste going on, wanton waste. So it sounds like it's going well for you and your citrus anyway, Maria, over there in the Tamar area. Evening, Mr. M and Ms. Jacqueline from Ree. Good evening to you, Ree. Are you a homesteader of any kind? Do let us know what you preserve, what you tin, or you call it canning. Oh no, canning. These are some of the things we need to talk about. The terminology, the nomenclature of the homesteader life. Canning. To me, is like a tin can, but canning can actually is any form of preserving things in jars as well, isn't it? Just to put something in saline or syrup and then take the air out, obviously, so it doesn't rot. And that process is called canning, I think.
And we used to call it putting up in the north of England. Well, my friends that lived in the north said, we're going to be spending the day putting up.
What, as in putting things into preparing things for the larder for the winter?
Yeah.
Oh, what a lovely expression. Okay, putting up. Fair enough. Never heard of that.
Because that's what happens. You put them up on a shelf eventually.
Fantastic. Okay, that's great. That's good to know. Maria, have you ever made candied orange slices? I understand it used to be a favorite with the Victorians, but have never tried them. Okay. Maria, some of the other stuff we do at home is lots of jams, which we really, that's the funny thing, isn't it? You've got to remember to eat it as well. Jams, peaches in brandy, from a 1951 New York Times recipe, timeless, obviously. Dried apricots, persimmon mush, frozen in zip bags. I'm guessing that's delicious in a smoothie. That's a nice idea. And Ree says, yes, we have mason jars for canning veggies, soups, making jellies, etc. Now, if you're, tell us more, Ree, because I'm thinking, can that canning of the veggies and the soups and etc. Does that need to be frozen, or can that, if you take the air out of it, if the little dimple in the lid pulls tight and you've made a seal, can you store it at room temperature? These are all the things. These are the basics we need to know about on the Happy Homesteaders Hour tonight. My grandma used to call it putting them up. Also, fantastic. I have made candied orange peel, says Maria. That's great. Recipes as well, please. With all of these things, I'm familiar with the putting up expression, says Anne Julian. Hi to you, Anne. How much of a homesteader are you? Please tell all tonight. But Maria says, I haven't had much success with nice candied slices. Okay, so a bit of a quality control issue there, but that's all part of this process, isn't it? About making mistakes and learning. And I don't think we should be daunted if we face failure with this sort of thing. No, they're sealed and they are stored in the pantry or basement. No freezing needed. Fantastic. Please say more, Ree. You're canning vegetables. What sort of vegetables? What sort of soups? What sort of jellies? Which of course are jams, aren't they? That's what the British call jam, is a jelly in America. Fantastic. I'm loving the beginnings of this. So we'll have a look at what you sent us tonight, Jacqueline. And NY Unix Guru is saying orange marmalade would be nice. Absolutely right. But you don't see it often, do you, in Portugal? A marmalade that I would think of as a marmalade from the UK. But again, recipes, treatments, whatever you've got tonight, stick it in the comments, because this will remain a resource for people, I hope, and I think.
And then maybe they could all put their recipes on the Homesteaders site.
I hope so. That's exactly what I wanted it for. Yeah.
And we would just say, please do it. All these people that have been writing up there, please put your recipes.
Please do.
Learn from each other, because that would be lovely.
Yeah.
Candied orange slices sounds gorgeous, or even dried oranges. And what do you do with them?
Yes, and then there's all the trading, of course. When one day we all meet up at a picnic park in the central of Portugal with our car trunks, as you would Americans say, car boots, as us Brits would say, full of all this stuff that we've been preserving, and we can have a little trading session in a Parque de Merendas somewhere in central Portugal and all meet each other as well. It'd be fantastic. I use my Instant Pot for small batch canning. It works very well. Is an Instant Pot, is that the newfangled thing that is the a pressure cooker, an Instant Pot? Tell us more about that. It's easy to throw these phrases in, Maria, but some of us other non-Americans don't know what you mean. You need a sort of there's a language barrier here, and we need a bit of translation. This man on with us now, this is Chris. Would you believe it? My boxing coach. And I'm imagining a few people would think, Munson, boxing, that's a bit incongruous. But I did a few months boxing training with Chris, and we had a whale of a time. Good friend of mine from Devon, and he is a bit of he makes a good jam, as I recall. And his dear friend, Mrs. T, who likes a tipple, says that's the best use of an orange bay from Devon there. She is the queen of recipes. So cough some up, Mrs. T, if you don't mind, from Devon in the UK. I have a great book from Ball Jars. I'm happy to scan any recipes from it. It's such a good resource. Please, Maria, now we're cooking. Pardon the pun. Mostly vegetable soup, says Ree. Almost any type of fruit or vegetable can be canned. My mum used to can green. Oh, there's the movie. Fried green tomatoes. So my mum used to can green tomatoes with onions. It was a sweet and sour type pickle when done. Although I hated putting up horseradish when I was little. Man, that would... Just the fumes from the horseradish would burn children's eyes. Amazing. And this is my nickname, by the way, when I was doing the boxing training with Chris, Carl the Cobra. And Julian says, I'm not much of a homesteader. Years ago, grew vegetables, and my mum canned, jarred strawberry jam. These are wonderful things to grow up with, though, aren't they, Anne? You never forget stuff like that. Me personally, I like to make freezer pickles with cucumbers. Cucumbers grow like crazy here in Florida. Do excuse me. Now, it's all very well. Stop saying these things, but not telling us how to do them. Yeah, what is
a freezer pickle?
Yeah, come on. And Maria, how come I can only see my comments? Oh, I'm not sure. I'll read them all out anyway, Maria, so you won't be starved of any of the communication here. But I'm not sure. It might be we've got various platforms. You know, we've got a few on. Most people watching tonight on the YouTube channel, a few in Good Morning Portugal, and a couple in the Homesteaders group itself. Albeit from a total group population of 400 people. Where are you all, you happy homesteaders? Maybe fast asleep now, having been hard working on the land all day. So let's start with some of your produce then, Jacqueline. Dried basil. This, and I think some of the other things here, you use a dehydrator. Could you tell us a bit more about that process?
Yes, you just, well, it's an electric dehydrator, and it's got sort of trays in it, about 6 or 7 trays in it. Takes up quite a lot of space, but I've actually got it in the laundry room and plugged in, and you just put your make sure it's clean. I very, very rarely have to wash anything from the garden that's leafy, because it's high enough not to get earth on it all. And you dry it until it's dry. They have sort of, I've got a book that actually recommends times, and obviously things like tomatoes take a much longer time, but you have to slice them very thinly, so you just leave them till
they're good and ready.
Yeah, till they're sort of brittle.
All right, superb. So I've got basil here. So would this basil have been grown in the troughs you told us about that are accessible for you from your wheelchair?
I've got sorts of buckets and pots, so that's not in my troughs, but I've got garden pots, big garden pots.
And I am. You can hear me. I've opened the envelope of basil, and the beautiful aroma of basil's coming out. I could make a pesto from that for sure. That's beautiful. What would you?
Preserving it is to make pesto with it fresh.
Okay. Yeah. What's the red star for? Why is there a red star on there?
I don't know. I think I just wanted to make it look pretty.
Oh, it does. These are lovely, and I'm going to go through them. What would you use your dried basil for typically?
I would use it in soups or in sauces, or I always make pesto with fresh basil.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've never tried making it with dry basil.
All right. And of course, for you Americans, that'll be basil. If you didn't know what we were talking about, they're basil. So I've opened up the olive. Oh, I've ripped off the top and I can't see what it is anymore. But these are the olive leaves, which are it's quite a sort of subtle that's a night air smell on a hotter night. I'm getting there. That's reminding me of the summer. Olive leaves, what would we do with those?
You make tea with them. They're supposed to be very, very, very good for you, and for people who've got serious illnesses.
Oh, really? So a real cleanser, possibly?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I can't remember the thing.
Well, I'm sure we definitely got a hive mind going on here. Anyone else can sing the praises of olive leaves there. There they are, the dried variety. Let us know what you might use them for, what you think they're good for. This one I might try now. NY Unix Guru says pickles are nice, green tomatoes and cucumbers. I've never had a green tomato as a pickle.
Wonderful chutney.
Yes, of course. That would be in our house. We would use the green tomatoes for a chutney, and Luis has definitely done that in the past. Because you often get a glut of tomatoes, don't you? And at the end of the harvest, there's still a few green ones on the vines, of course. Do you think you said that you would use this as a kind of garnish and flavoring? Should I try a dried tangerine now from your garden? Live,
but please don't drop dead right now.
Well, you can just talk for the rest of the show, can't you, and just cover me
No, I don't want to cover you.
These are absolutely beautiful, Jacqueline. If I just go back to our kind of close-up, look at this. They're delightful, aren't they? And I could,
with any fruit.
yeah, apples, of course, as well. Yeah, anything you can section like that. But I think it's gorgeous. And I'm looking at the light shining through it. It's like a little bit of natural stained glass. So here goes. I think I'm going to have to get the fleshy bit. Intense citrus flavor. Do you know what? I think that would be nice in gin and tonic as well. Yeah. Sorry to relate everything back to booze. But those are beautiful. And as I think Maria said earlier on, you've got a bit of potpourri action there if you want it, haven't you? But they're delightful.
Use them for flavouring, sort of sweet, syrupy things. But also for flavouring custards or something like that.
Oh, that's a nice idea. Or you could have put them in jelly as on top, not American jelly as in jam, but if you were making a wobbly jelly, those could go in, couldn't they, as a little bit of decoration?
Yeah.
In there as well. And of course, when you rehydrate these things, they come back to life more, don't they, as well?
So you can soak them.
Yeah.
Which is what I do with them, and then use them as a flavour.
Yeah.
In sauces.
All right, I'll come back to a few more of your goodies in just a moment after we've had a look at a few more comments. Ree, I love it. You know, when you ask people for a recipe and they say, "Oh, you just do this and you just do that." It's easy when you know how, but when you haven't got a clue and you're on the other side of the kind of knowledge barrier, it seems daunting. So, and this is what I was asking the other day. We keep chickens. I've got 8 chickens, and they're laying pretty well at the moment, so we give the neighbours eggs. We're well served for eggs, but I would love to make pickled eggs. So if anybody's got a recipe for pickled eggs, I'd love to do those. And I've also found out the hack. I don't know if you know this, but with fresh eggs, they're very hard to peel. It can be a real nuisance to peel boiled fresh farm eggs. They just kind of fall apart, and then the staler and older they are, the easier they are to peel. But I did find a hack video on YouTube, which is one of the many wonderful things about YouTube. So lol, this is for the pickles. You just mix vinegar, sugar and water and cut up cucumbers, then freeze them. Simple as that, and easy when you know how. They last for up to 6 months in the freezer. Found the video on YouTube. Okay, so freezer pickles. There's the thing. I'd never heard of that, honestly, Ree. So that's a good thing to know.
Yeah, that sounds really lovely.
Sounds all right, doesn't it? And refreshing too. If you get them when they're still chilled, that's going to be a refreshing thing. A nice big comment here to hide us both for a moment from Mark. I've always lived in urban environments, so have little experience of growing produce and then preserving it. There's still things I could do, tomato, herbs, potted plants, etc. Certainly having just moved to Portugal would provide me with more opportunity than I had in my tiny flat in the UK. Even buying produce when it is cheap and, say, making something like a fruit wine. Yes, orange marmalade would be wonderful. I really enjoy a chunky orange marmalade. So we look forward to the Pavor de Vargem vintage orange thick cut marmalade from you, Mark, at some stage at our Bring and Share that we'll have in central Portugal one day. Jacqueline, did you want to add something there?
I was just going to say that if you want sort of like English style marmalade, you need to use Seville oranges. It's not so good with the sort of other types of oranges, but I actually prefer it made with your ordinary oranges, or the navel oranges.
Okay, so you saying they need a lot of pith in there?
No, they call them Seville oranges. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I missed that.
I was taking the pith. I do beg your pardon. Right. I'm guessing Portugal cucumbers not ideal to grow as well. The cucumbers I've had in Portugal are quite coarse and prickly ones. They're not obviously, if you go to Lidl or whatever and you get them from the supermarket, I imagine they're imported from Spain or the Netherlands in sort of market gardening situations, but the local ones seem to be pretty rustic and chunky and tough. For people who don't like cucumber, the worst kind, basically, almost bitter. So that would probably go well, actually, as a pickle. Chop them up across the cross section of them and stick them in some vinegar. It'll be a good treatment for Portuguese cucumbers. Nice.
Take the skin off.
I don't know. I mean, I guess
they're much better if you actually take the skin off.
Oh, okay, all right. For the pickling. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Pickling. I just mean for eating.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. All right. And or the kind of alternate slicing is quite nice as well, isn't it? I quite like to do that on a cucumber. And I think Chris will like that because he's a chef. He's all about the presentation. Orange slices go well in a warm Christmas punch, a glühwein. Another great serving suggestion for my tangerine slices from Jacqueline there. Thank you for that, Chris. Very dry there. I guess, is that a reason why the Portuguese cucumbers are a bit tough? Freezer pickles sound great, Ree. So we've inspired Anne as well as me. And possibly you, Jacqueline, there with the freezer pickles. But right, from Will Thompson, he's a homesteader. He sent a fabulous picture of his wood pile, which is a key part of homesteading. Do you have a wood burning stove, Jacqueline?
Yes, I do. I have a fantastic large salamander.
A large salamander in the front room. Yeah. Amazing. And it's such a beautiful experience, isn't it?
I love it. I could just sit in front of the fire and watch the flames for hours and hours. Mm. I have actually had to take a lot of trees down, so I've got wood. But it's mostly, so that's preserving, I suppose. For sure. Because you have to keep them for, you've got to keep them for a year really before they're fit for anything.
Yeah.
And, I just buy some hardwood sometimes because most of mine's pine and it burns too quickly.
Like matchsticks, yeah. But I guess the longer you keep it, the better it is. And yeah, I mean, if I posted up a kind of a wood burner meme in the Happy Homesteader group, saying about what a appropriate source of heating it is for many reasons, holistically speaking. Not least, if you're chopping down trees on your land and you're storing that wood and the fuel hasn't traveled very far and you're burning it on a fairly efficient stove. I've got that down as a pretty efficient way of heating oneself. And I'm sure Will chip in with that as well. But he has among the tidiest of wood piles I've ever seen in my life, judging by the picture that he shared earlier on. So good evening to you, Will. Great to have your company. Nuno Miranda is here. Boa noite a todos. Are you a homesteader, Nuno? Or are you a city slicker, or a bit of both, growing a bit of fruit and veg on your balcony or whatever? Hola, unable to find you on Facebook Live today, where I always access the program. So switch to YouTube. Probably the reason for a few comments, Doreen Rays. Yes, I have been mixing it up a bit. Sorry about that, Doreen, if I've thrown you. I'm guessing you probably want it on the Expats Portugal Facebook page. Note to self made there. Not in pesto, fresh only, champ, says Chris. That is a chef's intervention there. No dried basil in a pesto. Okay, point of order, chef chairman. Thank you for that. Fresh spaghetti sauce with fresh basil. Yum, says Ree. Don't smoke those. Says Chris. I don't know which ones he's referring to. Promise not to, Chris. Promise not to roll up a sage smoke or anything like that. Although sage, of course, is a purifying smoke, isn't it? Used by a few kind of new agey types, and of course, indigenous people who use the sage sticks for smudging and so on. So there's something very cleansing about sage, obviously, which we've not got to yet, but we'll have a look at that in a minute, and we'll give that a crunch and a sniff in just a moment. Shelley's here. Hi, Shelley. Olive leaf is a wonderful antibacterial as a tea and as a wash for the skin. I think that works for me on two levels then. If you're suggesting I need a wash, Shelley, I'll give that a go. And I think the wonderful antibacterial, I'm going to try some of that tonight. Bit of a cough coming on again. So yes, I'm going to give that a go. And I think the sage is also good, isn't it, for the lungs and the chest as well. Will Thompson, my whole upbringing, my mum would never buy a basil plant from the shop and make it grow. Basil isn't like other plants, is it? Or am I missing something? Or she could never. No, it's a funny thing about those basil plants. Have you ever tried to do that, Jacqueline? The ones you buy, yeah.
But you have to give them quite a lot of TLC to start with, and then I put it in the pot and let it get rooted a bit more, and then actually divide it up and plant it, and it all goes whoomp like that for a couple of days, and then recovers and grows.
Okay.
So
I think TLC is the thing with basil, isn't it? But then once it goes, as in once it grows like billio, it's in the most amazing crop, isn't it?
yes, and you can keep it going. I've kept them going for years. The plants, if you take the flowers off.
Oh.
You can just you have to keep taking the top little. It has little white flowers on the top, and you take the flowers. So I suppose they're about 1.5 inches. I don't know. And you have to keep taking it off, and it will keep trying to grow flowers. But that applies to a lot of plants, I believe. I mean, I'm not a botanist, but because they keep on wanting to make flowers, so they keep on growing.
Okay. So pinching out the flower will encourage it to be bushy and grow more. And of course, once you've got the flower, you've got the seed.
Yeah.
Okay. Maria is saying, so there you go. Hope that helps, Will. There's a guy outside of Tamar that does spices. He delivers weekly, maybe. The chili experience. Oh, that's a good contact. And I think he can be found in the expatsportugal.com forum as well, the chili experience man. He has everything you need if you're pickling. Found it hard to find some of the spices for pickling in supermarkets. Yes, Maria, there's a thing. It can be quite difficult, I think, to locate the full range of things you might be used to for preserving and pickling in the normal supermarket. The spice you're going to find everywhere is canela, that's the cinnamon, because that is the national spice of Portugal. But yes, some of the other things you might be familiar with. The range I found in Portuguese supermarkets isn't as wide, and that sounds like the guy here near Tamar. With the chili experience is filling that gap with an excellent business opportunity. So search him out on the Expats Portugal forum and tell him how you found out about him, if you wouldn't mind. Cucumbers have a lot of fiber, as most vegetables, so it's advantageous to make pickles, if only for the fiber benefits. There you go. We're learning a lot tonight. Thank you, NY Unix Guru. Those tangerine slices would be awesome in mulled wine or Christmas punch. Yes, note made about that, Ree. Thank you very much. And they're so beautiful as well. I mean, they're so lovely to look at, these little fellas here. I love them. Keep it simple. Half vinegar, half water, some sugar, and a little salt brine proportions. Don't matter. It's to taste. Okay, so that's good to know. For those people who get a bit freaked out when they're making these recipes, worrying too much about the proportions. Doesn't seem to matter too much with vinegar and salt and sugar. Just do it to suit your taste buds. Excellent. Anything you want to say about pickles, Jacqueline?
I have tried pickles at different times, and I like making pickles, but I don't do it anymore because it's a bit much for me, and also you have to get things hot, for making pickles and jam and so on and so forth. But I'm in danger of stirring things above my head.
Okay, yeah.
I could do with a completely disabled type kitchen where everything's down low.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have that. I've got a little counter where I do it, but it's a bit dangerous because you have to get certain things really hot.
Yes, that's true with jam, isn't it? For sure. And then you have to really keep an eye on it, don't you, to get that viscosity right for the setting.
But I think actually before we leave the sort of greeny herbs type things, to remind people about nettles.
Oh yeah.
I mean, nettles do grow here, and they make wonderful tea, and are also good for washing, to make solution for washing, especially if you've got things that are irritating, because it's a sort of, it's like treating like with like they do with homeopathic medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Because it stings, doesn't it? And makes you itch if you get stung by a nettle. But it doesn't do that if you make an infusion and then use it as a wash.
And of course, as a vegetable, potato and nettle soup, really nice.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And that, of course, is the Ortigão. I live at Quinta de Ortigão, nettle farm myself. So it was lovely to see, to just rediscover nettles here in Portugal. And they're slightly different to the broadleaf ones of the UK. They're a slightly different variety as I'm experiencing here anyway. Thank you for that, NY Unix Guru. The pickle proportions. Here we go. Recipe for pickled eggs. Put eggs in vinegar. Wait. Thanks, Will. I don't know what I'd do without you. But he's probably right. Maria, I've been making gifts for my neighbours of dried orange slices, clove bits, broken cinnamon sticks. I put everything in a glass jar and some nice ribbon on it with a note. Put it all in a saucepan with half a litre of water for a very nice simmering house centre. There's a lovely idea. Or alternatively, that bottle of red wine that you didn't like very much, chuck that in there after it's simmered for a while, and you got yourself the glühwein, haven't you, or a Christmas punch maybe. That's lovely, Maria. Thank you for that. What type of soil is in Portugal? Here in Florida, it's sandy. What sort of soil have you got, Jacqueline?
I've got a mixture. There's a lot of clay.
Yeah.
Which is quite hard to get working. I'm told if you plant it for a few years with potatoes, it'll break it up. But I've never done that myself. But
yeah,
we do have some areas that are nice, mostly under where the old orchards have been, or where the soil's well composted.
Mm-hmm.
And I've recently been looking into different methods of composting that perhaps I could manage. I had a disaster to start with, but I just bought a small tumbler composter for putting the kitchen scraps in.
Oh yeah.
And I watched a wonderful man on, I think he was German, who was talking about how to make compost, but how to grow things in buckets. And he was growing huge, but vegetables that got much bigger than any other I'd seen. And I tried to bring it up when we were talking to the man that was doing the tree planting.
Oh yeah.
Because I thought it was an amazing, because the reason that the vegetables got so big was because he was watering them from the roots.
Yeah.
So as you start to fill your bucket, you put a few pipes in, straws, I suppose you could use bamboo straws or something like that, which you can buy, and then you water it so that it's watered from the bottom, which encourages the roots to grow down, which also breaks up soil. So I suppose if you stuck pipes around your garden and started watering it that way, the soil would get good.
Yeah, I think you're right. And things with long tap roots like comfrey, right? And the nightshade family, I think they're good for breaking up soils.
Yeah, I've never planted any comfrey here, but I used to have comfrey and put it all in a bucket in my house in England.
Yeah.
In a dustbin, and use the water to water the greenhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. So that nettles and comfrey are great fertilizers, aren't they? And I think that's what Mrs. M is putting in this new system that we've got. And yeah, you mentioned there the importance of watering roots and how well that can help the vegetable or the fruit grow. And that's what this system is. It's providing water to the root system through this flood and drain system. So rather than watering from the top, which is what us humans do, once we've abstracted fruit and veg from gardens or whatever, this is the system, I suppose, of the watering that we don't see. Because, of course, we see rainfall, don't we, watering things, but we're not aware of how the water table rises or how the roots go down to find water. So there's a whole world down there, isn't there, and a whole other world of how plants get their nutrition and water that we could do well to understand, I suspect.
I think there's areas in Portugal too that are very sandy soil.
Yeah.
But people grow all sorts of things in sandy soil. So.
Yep, as Shelley's saying here, Milfontes, she's in Villanova de Milfontes, beautiful beach town of coastal town of the Alentejo. A well-kept secret of the Portuguese, and less a secret the more we talk about it here. But Milfontes is all sand, understandably near the coast there, and carrots and beets grow very happily there. I think that's a lot of what you find actually here in Portugal: clay and sand, and you probably have to do a little bit of your own soil conditioning when you get your homestead or whatever. Would be my recommendation. I know there are some amazing soil conditioning or soil creation videos on YouTube now, and I'm a massive fan of mulching. So I shred loads of stuff. I'm not that keen on the whole idea of mechanization, but I don't want to be a complete Luddite. And I bought this shredder from Lidl that chips everything into beautiful pellets that cover the ground beautifully. It's very attractive as a covering of the soil, but also it locks in moisture, obviously, and it will be conditioning the soil over time. So I really would recommend that, the sort of chipping and mulching approach to making your soil beautiful and nourishing. Because we I don't know, it's a bit like human beings, isn't it? The soil, the environment is so important, because we often think about the plant, the seedling, and the watering. And maybe fertilizer, but maybe not too much about the soil, the actual growing environment.
Absolutely. The thing about growing in sandy soil too is when you pick them up, as long as you get the sand off them, you haven't got lots of washing to do, because they're not in the clay soil. Sometimes you spend hours trying to get the clay off your vegetables.
Yes, yeah.
Root vegetables.
Or the dirt, as our American friends would call it. Cucumbers, you have to pick while still small. The larger they get, the more bitter and the more seeds they have. I always peel cucumbers. Okay, going back to your cucumber peeling tip there, Jacqueline. Peter Bleach, I was Benoit holding my nose, Carl. I wonder which bit that was, Peter. A quick question for you both. Due to the cost of electricity and low voltage for homesteads, how easy are ELF to work with on solar and batteries? I don't know what that means, and it's not something I've got much experience with. But I've got a lot of experience of costly electricity and EDP, the rascals, but not much with the with solar and batteries. Peter, sorry, you've asked the wrong person there. But what we need to do, obviously, is get someone on, and maybe we'll do that in the next couple of weeks, Jacqueline, is get some sort of alternative energy person on. Will might come and talk about that, actually. Do you have any off-grid solar at your place?
No, I haven't got an off-grid anything. Actually, I wish I had. If I had a house, if I was to build a house, I would absolutely love to start from scratch and build a house as self-sufficient as it could possibly be.
Yeah.
But I don't really think this is the age to start doing that. So.
Okay.
You never know, but unless I sort of did it with a group of people, which I think is a really good way of doing something like that. Because especially, whereabouts are you in Portugal exactly? Are you in central Portugal?
Yeah, I'm between Aveiro and Coimbra, so I call it central Portugal, and yeah, it's like. It's a foot in the north and a foot in central. Because
there seems to be, I don't know if you ever went on the site that I showed you, Portugalissimo, where they do all sorts of eco-type houses, but they also sell land. And I mean, it's not very long ago, when it's a little bit further north than you are, there was a whole village up for sale.
Yeah, amazing.
And it was something like 100,000 with goodness knows how many houses and shops and all sorts of things.
And then you're into the people business, aren't you? Because I completely agree with you. I've been in all sorts of community experiments in my life, and the most difficult thing with all of that is human relationships. So, and I think we're getting to an age where we've got all the technology for figuring out how to communicate with each other, and we just need to put it into practice. But obviously, that's always easier said than done.
Well, I wasn't thinking so much of communal living, but having enough space for people to have their family living separately.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking sort of kibbutzy, but where you've got land that, well, their kibbutzes work very well.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. It's an interesting aside, isn't it? When there's a shared value of some sort, that often works well than a lot of people with different agendas and the challenges that can bring. Not speaking from my past pain or anything. Peter, whilst we're on that subject, are you familiar with Tamera? I'll put the link in the comments. But TAMERA, and a remarkable organisation with an incredible concept in the Algarve. I think it's the Algarve, or if not, then the Alentejo, about a new way of living, and they're creating biotopes, they call them, in the south of Portugal. Well worth a look, and I think they addressed the whole issue of I was going to call it complementary power. What's it? Alternative energy. What's the word for that? I can't remember. But sustainable energy systems, Peter. We will do our best to get some someone who can speak to that more effectively than me here. Hello, guys. Boa noite from Marcos Valbon. In Portugal, have blueberries from Algarve, South Portugal. Crystallized fruit is for sale only in the Christmas weekend here in Portugal. Very traditional in this country. Yes, crystallized fruit. Where can we? Thanks, Marcos. Where can we get organic seeds from? There are, I think, mail orders the way forward. Shelley, and of course, seed swapping, seed sharing, really important. You can get some organic seeds from us, Shelley, when you're ready, because we are seed savers and seed swappers and seed sharers. Best way to start seedlings, says Ree, use the cardboard from the toilet paper rolls, cut them in half, make small slits in one end of the roll so that you can fold the bottom. This is origami. You can fold the bottom in on itself, add dirt, then add a seedling or a small seedling. Then you can just plant the seedling directly into the ground when it is larger, since the cardboard disintegrates. Excuse me. Is that why, Ree, people were panic buying toilet roll? It wasn't for the toilet paper, it was for the tubes, because they feared a food shortage and they wanted to get planting. But that's lovely, Ree. Thank you for that. Jacqueline, Google the YouTube video for freezer pickles. Nothing hot needed. There you go. That sounds like a good one. Will Thompson, my tidy wood pile, took the green fresh chopped garden trees, processed them and put in a solar kiln, will dry 5 times faster, recorded 65 degrees inside there today, even though only 14 outside. Wow. Dry wood burns better, cleaner, faster, way less emissions. Power of the sun. Thank you, Will. Always incredible intel from Will Thompson. It's an impromptu Thompson Tuesday. You can make freezer jams with just fruit stirred well and put in a jar. Oh, that's good, isn't it? And then not need a stove. Need to keep you safe, Jacqueline. There you go. A fantastic alternative and fix for that problem. Mrs. M, I wanted to sing Mrs. M's praises. She's made a kiwi jam. We were given a stack of kiwis from our dear friend, Marco the Fox, Marco Raposa from Walnut Tree Farm. I'm going to send you some kiwi fruits, Jacqueline. And there, Mrs. M has made a beautiful kiwi fruit jam. And the other day when I said, you can't get Branston pickle, can you, in Portugal? She looked it up and made it. Branston pickle to go with me, vintage cheddar. So that's a couple more things coming from the Munson household there. So there you go, Jacqueline. We can sort you out with freezer jams. Boa noite, party people from Atlanta. I'm giving plants for Christmas, mostly little pine trees with flannel bows and little sweatered Santas. They sound delightful, Victoria. Good evening to you. Everything people want to get rid of from their garden. Ash, grass cuttings, leaves, old fruit, poo, everything that's good for the soil. Ash, grass cuttings, leaves, old fruit, poo. So basically anything biodegradable and real, that's can be turned into useful stuff in someone else's garden, possibly Will's here. Nettles and comfrey can vouch for that. Rare in Portugal, though. Famously off topic once again. Yeah, absolutely, Victoria. When have we ever been on topic? I have to mulch around plants a lot here in Florida to keep the moisture, which actually make the soil better over time. Absolutely, Ree. real benefit there. And yes, Peter talking about escaping the rascals who are EDP. No problem. I got the gist of what you were asking there, Peter. Thank you so much, Jacqueline and Carl. That link looks great. Yeah, Tamara is a remarkable organisation. It really is. I did a podcast with them a long time ago, but they're struggling a bit because they have an educational focus, and people have normally come from all over the world to find out what they do and learn about their way of dealing with nature and communing with nature, and people communing with people in every sense, actually, down there in Tamara. Incredible progressive ideas and well worth a look. But they've struggled because people can't travel there at the moment. So, yes, I think any attention is good attention for them right now. Jacqueline, we're going into our closing minutes. What have we missed from the homesteading world? I've got 2 more envelopes open from you.
Well, I was just thinking if you, I'm not a teetotaler, but you can also make wonderful tea with spices and fruit and all sorts of things. And I decided to have a birthday party when I was 80, which my family couldn't throw for me, but I invited a few neighbours and all the people that work for me. And I wanted to do that because I wanted to give them something good. Well, I made far too much food, but because people were driving, I just made this tea, and everybody thought it was alcoholic, but it wasn't. It was a tea with spices and cinnamon and all sorts of things. I just kept adding to it and tasting it, and I just thought it was lovely. So I'm terrible about recipes. I appreciate it when other people put them up, the recipes.
As in what, you're intuitive, you just kind of chuck a bit in here and there and like to make it up. That's the way, isn't it? A compliment for you, Ms. Jacqueline, your hair. I think she's referring to you. I was trying to work out what this meant, but I think that's your hair looks lovely down.
Thank you.
See, because I thought it looked magnificent last week when it was up, but clearly both ways. Bay now. Now this is an interesting herb, isn't it? And with the advent of processed food, people have not only lost touch with how to cook from scratch, but they don't really understand herbs so well, do they? So can you tell us about the uses of bay, please, Jacqueline?
Well, they're traditionally put in most soups, and then you take the leaf out, just so it flavours, but it's not particularly pleasant to eat the leaf.
True.
It's nice flavours.
Yeah.
And they're nice to hang up, and they're also nice to put in potpourri and things like that. But I've got several trees. They call them laurel here, I think. Laurel bay. Is there a Portuguese speaker in the audience somewhere?
Give us a translation of bay, if you will. Yeah, and obviously that goes in a spag bowl as well, doesn't it? The bay leaf, traditionally. Yeah, but it's quite subtle, isn't it? That's the funny thing about it.
It's better when it's dried.
Oh, okay.
It's a bit stronger when it's dried. I mean, I've got so many bay trees around that I've tried using them just fresh, but they're not the same. They're better dried.
For more dried herbs here, some sage, which again is going to be a good tea. But also, you use that as a seasoning, don't you? You were telling me before we went on air. What dishes does that go in?
It's very nice in stuffing, of course, but you can use it in a mix. I mix it with other herbs, and it's nice with pork, just on the top.
The subtlety of herbs, a great thing to be experimenting with, and I think I'm going to have me some sage tea as well, maybe after the show. Jacqueline, thank you so much for joining us tonight, as usual, on a Tuesday. We often finish with some words of wisdom from you. I don't know if anything has occurred to you, if everything has bubbled up or percolated to the top to share with everybody.
Well, what I'm thinking of is the abundance of life, things that that we're grateful for. I mean, it's just, there's such a variety. And if you believe, like I do, that God created the world, he's not stingy by any means, because we've covered such a few things. But I mean, that our planet is just like an extravagance of produce and variety and wonderful leaves. And they all reproduce themselves, and we can't do it. We can't make any seeds. We can only ruin them by GMO them or whatever it is to do. But so I would just like to finish by thanking God for the abundance of life that he's given us.
Well, amen to that. And someone's put a heart in the. Can we get an amen or a heart emoticon in the comments there? Pop a heart in if you're with us on the glorious abundance of this incredible planet. And as we said before, Jacqueline, we were talking before, weren't we? Actually, here we go. Eduardo says bay leaf is foglia de louro. Thank you very much for that, Eduardo Santos. Thank you for joining us tonight. Yeah, this incredible abundance that we're blessed with. If there were to be any food shortages, it's not because of the planet, is it? It's because of silly people. It's a distribution problem.
Absolutely. And that's a promise, a biblical promise. As long as the earth remains, there will be seed time and harvest. So don't let anybody tell you any different.
What a brilliant point to end on. Well, a lovely note for happy homesteaders, who I know can sometimes be motivated by fear and concern, anxiety and worry. But actually, what a fabulous guiding light and vision is to just be sharing and enjoying the earth's abundance and this God-given abundance that we have. 3 hearts from Victoria Benson in Atlanta. Jacqueline, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Carl.
Ciao, ciao.
My mouth is watering. I shall have to go and have a pickle.
Go have a pickle. That sounds like a Portuguese idiom, doesn't it? Yeah, go have a pickle. Ciao, ciao, everybody. Abraços, beijinhos. See you in the morning. Bye for now.